Welcome back. Welcome back. Welcome back. Happy that you're all here today. None of you dropped, which is always good for the first few days. Attendance, if you haven't already, please check in on your phones. Okay. Say hi to my mom and dad who are visiting from New York. They always try and come at least once a semester, so they came just in time. All right. Questions from last class. Things on your mind. No? Okay. I want to start off with a poll question. You guys want to do the poll questions? See if I can figure that do it right. Okay. All right. Oh, I did the wrong thing. Sorry, I should have done it here. Anyway, well, here's your question. This is not an answer that's correct or false, but I actually want to poll to see how you guys feel about the rule of capture. So your question is, the rule of capture is fair. A is true, B is false. And you can put this on your phone. I'll give you about 30 seconds. This one should not be too hard, but you know, they get harder, I promise. So I'll ease you into it. Are you seeing it? Yes? Yes? I'm getting 52 responses. Good. Okay. All right, I see 60 people, so about 20 people haven't done it yet. 10 more seconds. If you're one of those people. They're not graded, but you should do them, because that tells me you're actually in class and paying attention. Okay. Close enough. All right, I'm going to stop it here. If you haven't done it, too bad. Let's see what we got. Huh. Oops. So a majority of you think that the rule of capture is not fair. And about a third of you think that the rule of capture is fair. And I want to drill down to the why. Okay, so first off, who here thinks the rule of capture is fair? Okay. Anyone want to tell me why? Yeah, hands go down quick. Yeah. Why do you think the rule of capture is fair?
It avoids chaos.
Well, fair to who?
Well, okay.
Oh. So you think it's fair to society?
Mm-hmm. Yes, as a whole. As like a peacekeeping measure.
Ah. Is it fair, though, to the hunter who gets screwed? To the guy who shot the whale and didn't get it?
But in that case, he was the one who captured it. And we relied on custom to say he's the one who
Okay. Well,
he just couldn't actually get his hands on it.
Well, did he capture it? Who else said that rule of capture is fair? Is that Blake?
Yeah.
Tell me why.
I hunt.
You hunt? Okay, tell me.
And if I'm going to put forth the effort going after a game animal, and I successfully wound that animal, it's inherent that they don't always drop immediately. So if it does run off, it's unfair that I put in the effort for somebody else to come in and grab it for me.
But if you've wounded it, have you captured it?
According to the concept talking about two people, I say yes.
Well, here comes the reason why this is a harder question than might look. What exactly is the rule of capture? It sounds really easy, whoever captures the animal first. But I think you'll see from the first case with the whales, there are different positions on what it means to capture an animal. But I want to go back to Nancy's point. I think I got her in the first follow-up question, right? And when we say fair, right, I hate that word because it's not clear who you're talking about being fair to. Are we talking about being fair to the hunter who gets cheated out of his game? Are you talking about maybe fair to society to promote certainty and avoid chaos? Is it fair to judges, right? Whenever you ask about what's fair, the follow-up question is fair to who? Because usually fairness for one is unfair for the other, which is why I hate the concept of fairness. It adds absolutely nothing. It doesn't tell you anything. It's just a meaningless word law students like to use. And kids too, that's not fair, right? It doesn't tell you anything. So rather than thinking about fairness, I want you to start thinking about what are the rules and the different ways that the rule of capture has been interpreted. Okay? For your notes, this is going to be very clear, there is not a single rule of capture, right? There isn't one. In the cases we have today, we have 2 cases for you today. They define the rule of capture, I think, in different ways. And even in the same context of hunting whales, the rule of capture may vary based on the location, based on your custom of your region of where you're residing. Okay? All right, any questions so far? All right, where did I finish last time? Who's the last? Hold on. Marissa, you're last? Okay, I think Stuart, are you next?
Yeah.
Okay. This will become more natural over time, but usually wherever I finish on Tuesday, I'll just pick up on Thursday the next person. So people just sit in dread knowing for the entire weekend they're next. And I'm sorry, there's no way to avoid it. It happens every year. But I'll call on Stuart next. And I think it's between Stuart, David, Blake, and then that's Jenny. I think you're probably after that. Okay. All right. Just so you know the did you guys go already? Yeah, then it's Julissa. I got to figure out the. Damn it. It's okay. Be honest. I try to make this. Okay, Julie, so you're after the Blake, okay? All right, so Stuart, let's start off, please, with the first case, Ghen versus Rich. And do you want to just start off, please, and give me the facts in Ghen? And I'm turning the attendance off. If you didn't sign in, well, you should have. Okay. But do it quickly. I don't want this on all day. Class keeps ticking. All right. Stuart, you want to give me the facts in the first case, Ghen versus Rich, please?
Yeah, so there's whalers that went hunting for whales, and they got them with a harpoon.
Okay, so explain to me how, I mean, no one's ever hunted whales, have you? I've not, right? But at least in the 1800s, whale hunting was very important, right? Why? Oil, right? It wasn't really comfortable to extract oil from the ground. Like, at that time, you were starting to take oil from the ground, but the primary mechanism by which you had oil was actually from whales. And it wasn't just like for powering cars. There were no cars. It was for lighting. You would actually use the whale oil to have like an oil lamp, right? So it was used for fuel. So this wasn't just capturing whales for food or whatever. This was actually a very important element of getting a fuel for energy. Okay, go on, Stuart.
They killed one of the whales, and then
How? Okay, so walk me through how. And by the way, don't say they. I need names. Because the parties' names actually matter. So who did what? Just give me a name, Stuart. Who's who? Who's Ghen? Who's Rich?
is Ghen the hunter.
Okay.
So Ghen killed the whale, uses a harpoon with the explosive tip on it.
Okay.
Whale dies, floats to the bottom, then eventually comes back up, and then washes ashore. And
Okay. Explain to me, how do these harpoons work? Just roughly.
I guess they're kind of like missiles. They have explosives.
Basically, yeah. So let me show you some pictures. These whales are huge. These finback whales. I found this diagram somewhere, and that just gives you a sense of scale. If that's a person about 6 feet tall, the whale is about that size. So these are ginormous beasts. The mechanism they use to kill these animals, what was called a bomb lance harpoon. So you know what a harpoon is? Basically a spear, right? And you might throw a spear or whatever, right? But these are very thick-skinned animals. So the way it would work is you basically had an explosive, a detonation, right? You would fire the thing, it would actually blow up, and then have enough force to actually go through the skin of the whale. And here's what they actually look like. It's basically like a rocket-propelled grenade, if you want to use a modern terminology, to fire at these whales. And here's some diagrams of them. All right, good. So, David, so Ghen. Oh, by the way, these phrases, libelant, did everyone see that phrase? Did everyone look up what that meant? Yeah.
Like a maritime court, right?
Yeah, libelant is basically the plaintiff, right? It has nothing to do with like slandering someone, right? It's a term for maritime law. Maritime law is the law of the sea. So the plaintiff is basically the libelant, and the respondent is the defendant, right? That's just the terminology they use, so don't get tripped up. All right, so David, so the plaintiff, Ghen, he's at the sea, and he fires his bomb lance at the whale. Okay. What happened after he fired his lance at the whale?
The rope breaks,
Okay.
and the whale eventually comes ashore days
Oh,
later.
okay, but does the whale live or does the whale die?
The whale doesn't immediately die. I think it sinks.
Yes, that's right. Okay, so why? It just I know this sounds really obvious, but why can't they drag the whale to shore after they kill it?
It's too big.
It's too big. Okay. So here's the problem, right? When you're hunting something like a fox or maybe a duck or something else, they're small. You can pick it up and bring it with you. Hunting a whale is of a different category because you cannot literally carry it because it's too big. The only way to kill these animals was to shoot them with a harpoon, hope they die, let them sink to the bottom of the ocean, and eventually they'll wash ashore, right? So what we see here is that the rule of capture is modified for this type of animal. That is, there's not a single rule of capture. The rule of capture for a fox or a duck, something small, is different than the rule of capture for a whale. And really, a duck flies. Foxes don't fly. The rule of capture for something that can fly from place to place is going to be a little bit different. And I'll give you an example. How do you capture a bee? A honeybee, right? How would you capture a bee? You can't, I guess you can kind of grab it, put it in a net or something, but you can't shoot it. You can't harpoon it, right? Anyone guess? How would you capture a bee?
Hives.
Oh, you're next. Perfect. Yeah, Blake, how would you capture a bee?
Hives.
You grab the beehive? Is that a smart idea? You're going to just run away with the beehive? How? How are you going to do that? There's a beehive in the wild. How are you going to make that yours? You're going to grab it, put it in your arms, and get stung everywhere?
If I was a beekeeper,
No, we're talking about the wild here. We're not talking about bees that you've raised. There's a beehive in the wild, in the park somewhere, in the woods, and you want to make sure that's your hive.
I personally would run away in fear, but
Well, what could you do to signify that that's your hive?
you could build something around it to indicate that you are
Like what?
taking ownership.
Like what? Be more precise.
Build a little fence or
Okay.
enclosure.
Okay. And how will people know that's your enclosure?
You could mark it.
Ah, market, right? That's actually the answer. You could actually mark the hive, maybe on the tree nearby somewhere else. You put your brand. Same way of a cattle brand, you mark it. And indeed, that's exactly how the whalers in this field operated, right? Because if you just kill a whale, how are you supposed to prove it's yours? Like, there's no phones there. You can't, like, tag them with a GPS, right? You can't do all the things that you would want to do today, right? So, Jaleesa, I told you next, right? Jaleesa, how did they tag these whales so people knew it was their kill?
Their lances, so would they use the harpoons?
Good.
The lances would be specific to each different boat.
Very good. Thank you. Exactly right. The way they did it was actually very smart. These little harpoons had a little tip, right? That's the thing that actually penetrated the whale's hide. Each of these harpoons would have a different type of mark on it, right? Maybe a star shape, maybe a triangle shape, right? You can put different markers on the thing. So when they find the whale, they can see what was the pierce, right? What went through it. You know, maybe if you fire the harpoon might be stuck in the whale. That happens sometimes. And then you can say, oh, that's my harpoon, right? But there can be cases, aren't there, Louisa, where the harpoon falls out and you can't really tell what the mark is. Maybe it decomposed, maybe, you know, it sort of just, you know, maybe nicked his skin. You know, a lot of things can happen. What are you supposed to do if it's not even clear whose mark it is? That's not the facts here. The facts here are actually pretty clear. But just take my hypothetical for a second.
Well, they talked about cases in which the rope, was ripped off, or there was no way to find out who was
Yeah. What do you do then?
um,
What are you supposed to do then when the rope rips and you have no harpoon left, no marker? What do you think you should do? You're a judge, right? You have one person say, I killed the whale. And some other guy says, no, I found it's mine.
well, if there's no way to prove who killed it, then I guess the person that found it.
What do you think, Giancarlo? This guy says, I killed that whale. I spent 3 hours hunting in the water. I harpooned it. My harpoon fell out. You can't prove it's mine. And then some other guy says, no, I found it on the beach. I should get all of it. How do you resolve that dispute?
Well,
Yeah, and I think that's a fair point, right? There's no way to prove who put the work into it, which is why the question is the capture theory fair? The capture theory gives you some certainty, right? It's clear. You get the body, it's yours. Whereas the labor theory, how do you prove you put all the work into it? Right? How do you prove you put the work into it? So I think in many regards, the capture theory is the most fair of them all. But also, it's pretty damn unfair if you were the hunter who got screwed. So the same theory, depending on the way you look at it, can be both, I think, fair and unfair, depending which perspective you choose. All right, but let's go back to this case, right? This wasn't the case where it was unknown who killed him, right? Everyone knows that was Ghen. Ghen had been in this market for many years. He was a well-known whaler. He killed the whale. It sunk immediately. And then the whale wound up on a beach, 17 miles away. Okay, I can't see it. Adam, thank you. Adam, what happens after the whale shows up, on a beach somewhere nearby?
So,
What happens next?
So Rich kind of just claimed possession, and he actually advertised it for sale on its own.
Oh. Did Rich make any effort to determine who might have actually killed the whale?
Even though that it had been a custom.
Okay, this is very important. Thank you, Adam. There was a custom that existed in this community, right, this community of whalers, that when a whale washes on shore, you check, hey, did anyone kill a whale recently, right? And maybe there might be competing claims, we don't know, but Ghen he sent word that, look, I just killed this whale, it's going to wash up sometime soon. It sank immediately. They knew roughly how many days from when you killed it to when it washes ashore. They could figure that out. But Rich was being a bit of a, how do we describe it? He didn't check, right? He was kind of just playing stupid, right? He knew there was a good chance that someone else killed it, but he made no effort to put up, to investigate. Okay, but it's not just Rich. Is that Naveen?
Yes.
Naveen, was Rich the only person who screwed up here? Who else may have,
It was the city of Ellis, right? They forgot to notify Provincetown.
Okay, but we know the whale's put up for auction, right? What happens at an auction?
It's sold
To who?
to another.
Okay. And so if you go to a whale auction, what's one question you might want to ask?
Have you?
Oh, how'd you get it? And you think the people at this auction inquired as to where Rich got it from?
I guess they didn't since they sold it.
Yeah, I mean, we don't know. I'm sort of making up facts, but I want to just illustrate a principle. When you buy something at an auction, or maybe buy something at a pawn shop, or I don't know, you have a duty to investigate where it came from, right? To make sure it's not stolen goods. Now, if you go to a store, you can probably be sure it's not stolen goods. It's in the package. But if you go to a pawn shop, you might be buying stolen goods. You don't know, right? Yeah. Oh, you're next. Chance. Good.
Isn't that the whole point of going to a pawn shop? Is you're going somewhere because you know it's not stolen. That's on the pawn shop. You're going to an auction, right?
I don't think so. I think you go to a pawn shop because it's going to be cheap because it might be stolen. Right. I mean,
It's the ideal situation.
I mean, generally the reason why you go to a pawn shop is it's cheaper than if you go to the store because there's a chance it may not be legit. I think. I've never bought something at a pawn shop. I don't know. Right, but even at an auction, right? Think of a property auction. When you buy land at a property auction, you basically buy it as is, right? There may be defects there. There may be, you haven't learned this yet, but there may be disputes over, maybe there's another owner who claims it, right? If you know what a quick claim deed is, you're basically getting no assurances. Maybe someone might have an easement over it, right? You're buying it as is. If you go to if you buy a car at a government auction, it may not have an engine. You can't investigate. You just buy it as is on the lot. So these auctions are ways of buying stuff that you kind of take a risk. So I think to Naveen's question a minute ago, Rich screwed up here, but if I had to guess, the people they bought it from also knew something was up. No, we don't know, but we're speculating. All right. So Rich never notified anyone about this auction. He sells this whale, and basically what they do is they have to. It's disgusting. They basically chop up the entire whale, and they basically take all the oil out of it and they just discard the blubber, right? I forgot the number, but it's how many? Is it 20 barrels? Yeah, yeah. So from this massive whale, you get 20 barrels of oil, and a barrel of oil weighs about 300 pounds. So we're not talking about a lot. There's like a 10% yield rate on the extraction of the oil. So there's a lot of oil that's just getting wasted altogether. Okay, so Rich sells it. Ghen comes along and sues him. He's like, hey, that's my whale, and then this goes to court. All right. Okay, so Chance, here you are. Chance, were there any statutes at the time that governed hunting of whales? Any sort of positive law that they could rely on?
More customs.
Custom, but just my question: were there any statutes that the court discusses? Had the legislature discussed this issue?
I think so.
Are there any statutes cited in the case?
Maybe.
They're not. Okay, there are no statutes cited, right? So instead they look to custom, right? Now, is that Anthony?
Yeah.
Anthony, why do courts look to custom? Why is this something courts would do?
To help provide standards in that community.
Well, I know it gets you a standard for the community, but what gives courts the right to decide a hunting case based on custom, right? Maybe the custom is wrong. Maybe the custom's not fair. Why are judges deferring to custom here so much?
If there's no previous statutes to tell them what to do, then they would rely on what people that are experienced in that field do.
Yeah. And did I give you a name card, or you just forgot it?
I didn't have one.
Do you have one or no?
I didn't. They ran out yesterday, and then I forgot.
Come to my office after class, okay? Okay, thank you. The reason why I think courts rely on custom is because there's nothing else to rely on, right? There's no statute, right? There's no binding authority. And I think most judges simply presume that it's a reasonable thing to do to look to custom. Is that true or not? You know, we can argue back and forth. But I think that a lot of judges think it's appropriate. But to say look to custom doesn't give a clear answer, because often the custom itself is unclear. Is that a hand over there? Okay. Because often the custom itself isn't clear. Right? Did I do this for already? Yeah? Yesterday. Tuesday. Okay, so then Lexi, I think, oh no, Natalie? Okay, so you get the next question, Natalie. So the court identifies there are a couple different lines of precedent, or there are a couple different cases that maybe give different types of rules that might be relevant here. So what are some of the cases that the court discusses? All right, there are a handful of them.
Well, the first one is Bartlett.
I don't know if that's the first one, but that's one of them.
And Swift.
Okay, but the first, there are three cases, right? There's Bartlett, there's Swift, and what's the other one? The very first one I think they put in.
Oh, Tabor v. Jenny.
Yeah, let's start there, right? Let's start with Judge Sprague, who I think was a former senator in Maine. So this is a case from Maine, Tabor versus Jenny. Tell me about that case. What's the rule there?
The rule is that when a whale has been killed and it is anchored and left with marks of appropriation, it is the property of the captors, and it is and if it is afterwards found still anchored by another ship, there is no usage or principle of law by which the property of the original captors is diverted, even though the whale.
Okay, in your own words. Good. In your own words, what does it take to kill a whale under that rule? What do you have to do? Just go 1, 2, 3.
Anchor it.
What does it mean to anchor it?
With the harpoon bomb, it attaches a rope from the ship
Okay, very good.
to the whale, and then the ship follows the whale as it sinks or as it moves.
Okay, so just I want you to understand how this works. When I say a harpoon, there's a rope at the end, a very long rope, right? And the idea is you throw or you shoot the harpoon and it connects. And the whale might sort of fall to the ground, but the rope is still there. Right? So the idea is you have the anchor and the rope holds as the whale falls down to the ground or to the to the bottom of the sea. If another ship comes along and the whale is still anchored to this rope, then too bad. It belongs to the people who threw the whale and got the harpoon through. Yeah. So that's the first rule. That one I think is actually very difficult to do. Because just think about it. You have this massive whale falling to the bottom of the ocean with a little stupid rope connecting, right? and there's like a little, basically a little metal hook. The hook's going to fall out at some point, right? The rope might rip, right? Maybe might tear. It's underwater. There's storms. Anyone ever read Moby Dick in high school? Yeah, you have bad memories, right? Or at least maybe seen one of the movie versions. This was a dangerous job. I think I have a picture of it somewhere here. Yeah, I mean, that's just a picture. I mean, that boat over here got snapped in half, right? This was a dangerous job. This was not something you did lightly. And that's important, right? One of the reasons why the court looks to custom is they want to ensure this vocation, this job continues, right? One of the reasons why you risk your life to catch a whale is because you want the oil. And if someone who doesn't do the hard work can get your stuff, you're not going to waste your time, right? You're not going to put the effort into it, right? If you study hard for an exam and someone just cheats off you, maybe you won't study so hard. Maybe you will. I don't know. You should. Don't cheat. Please don't cheat. Right? Did everyone see the dean's email about the Astros thing? I agree emphatically. In fact, last night I had a conversation with their class. I'll relay this, saying one student said it's not fair that the coach was fired because he wasn't the one cheating. Give you an analogy, right? If I'm the professor, right, and I know you guys are cheating and I do nothing to stop it, I should be fired. That's easy. That's very easy. If the dean of the law school kind of knows something's going on, doesn't investigate, he should be fired also. So this isn't. Maybe you're Astros fans. Maybe you're sad and you're mourning. I'm a Yankees fan, so I now know why they lost the LCS. Oh, I'm sorry. Yeah, it's easy. I was actually at Game 7. That sucked. I was in the outfield for the home run. I was just about 2 rows back where it hit. What?
Oh, I was there too.
Oh well, mild stuff, right? That game sucked. But the point is, if you're aware something's going on, you don't do things to stop it. Here too, right? If courts know that an important feature of this profession is you're risking your life, getting snapped up by a whale tail, right? They want to reward the labor. Okay, so the first rule, Tabor versus Jenny, that Natalie gave us a minute ago, is you have to strike it and keep your anchor in, which I think is actually going to be really hard. Okay? All right, so I think, Lexi, you're next? Okay, Lexi, what's the next case, this Bartlett versus Budd case that Natalie mentioned a minute ago?
Yeah, so in this case, the plaintiff had killed the whale, anchored it, attached a waif to its body.
What's a waif?
It's like a stick.
It's a flag,
Yeah.
right? Think of the book in a footnote. Who knew a waif was a homeless child? They don't even know what that is. No, what the hell is a homeless child? I don't even know that word, right? Anyway, it's basically a flag, right? Imagine like if you ever go to the ocean, they put these little buoys with a flag kind of thing, right? It's kind of like that, right? So basically, you put a flag of some sort that attaches to the animal, right? So you don't have to actually harpoon its skin and kill it right away, but you have to tag it somehow. Okay, so how does that rule work, Lexi? What do you have to actually do?
Right, so it was tagged, and then they left.
Yeah.
Came back the next morning. The tag wasn't on the whale.
Yeah.
But the judge still ruled in favor of the plaintiffs, the first, I believe it's the ones who had killed and taken actual possession.
Right. Why?
Yeah, the judge ruled that ownership was vested in them.
By virtue of putting the flag on it. Right. And I think you're seeing here a little bit less stringent rule, right? So the first rule is you have to actually kill it, put a harpoon through it. This one, you just put a flag on it, right? And almost, I think like flag football, right? If you put the flag on the person, they're down versus having to actually tackle them, right? It's how easier are you making the act of acquiring possession. Okay. All right, then we get to this last case. Is that Madison? Swift against Gifford. What's the rule there?
So that one, the judge said that the whale had a line attached to it, but it didn't remain attached to the boat.
Yeah.
And they said that the crew continued the pursuit and captured the whale.
Okay.
And then the master claimed it and said that the whale belonged to the master of the ship.
Okay, so here's what happened, right? This was in the Arctic, which imagine is going to be really cold, right? So you have a ship in the Arctic somewhere. There was a harpoon, and the line remained in the whale, but it didn't hold the boat. In other words, the rope between the boat and harpoon snapped. Okay? The libellant pursued the whale after it was struck, but he got it. The original guy, the respondent, who hit it first, who put the iron in it first, claimed it. Okay? And the judge gave it to the respondent, the person who actually got it there first. And the ruling there is because the respondent put the labor into it, right? He put the effort into it. That is what counted. This is not so much a rule of capture. It's more of a, you want to call it Locke. Remember John Locke, the Mr. Burns guy, right? John Locke. More of a labor theory. And the court adopted this labor theory because this was the custom embraced by the business. Right? And the court says we don't want to disturb this sort of arbitrary rule, right? We don't want to disturb this occupation by putting in our own rule. Okay, and this is the rule. So we have these three cases which are not exactly the same, right? Although they kind of are, right? I mean, they're slightly different, but in all of them, the person who put the most work in prevailed. I think that's a fair statement, right? All three cases, the person who put the most work into it got the fox, got the whale. Foxes are on Tuesday, I'm sorry. Got the whale. What does that tell us, right? The courts, when they say rule of capture, always incorporate something similar to Locke, right? So even when courts say we're doing rule of capture, in the background, John Locke's doing some work, right? They're incorporating some of the Lockean principles. All right, so we got through our three cases. We got through Tabor, we got through Bartlett, we got through Swift. So then we come back, Sarah, we come back to our case, right? How does the judge in our case, Ghen, decide the matter? Which rule does he pick? Which rule does he apply? Not really. This always confuses students because the reasoning is not clear. But tell me how you think your rules, and I'll maybe try and fill in some gaps. But if you were a little confused, what's the holding of this case? You're not alone. It's like you think, oh, I picked rule 1, 2, or 3. I'm gonna pick this one, right? No, he doesn't. That'd be too easy. Go ahead. So how do you think he resolves it?
So I believe he says that whoever puts in the most effort gets to keep the whale. So the whale, or the original person who shot and killed the whale, that's who the whale belongs to.
Okay. All right. So I think I can describe it this way. He says we'll follow custom, which is basically what Ghen wanted in this case. But it's only a custom for whalers. This would not be a custom for hunters, for example. So what's required? The first taker, right, has to take the only active appropriation that's possible. Let me say that for you again. The first taker must take the only action that's appropriate in the nature of the case. And in this situation, the harpoon gun is the only active appropriation that's possible. You can't grab it. You can't put a net on it. You can't shoot it with a gun. You need this harpoon lance. Right? He even gives examples, right? If you want to get a hive of bees, you have to mark it. If you want to capture a bird, you have to put a bell in its footer. I don't know. These sort of silly things, but these are ways that you can indicate to the world the animal is yours. But then he starts talking about labor, right? And he sort of just like kind of flips a little bit, right? He says, well, we don't want a rule that would punish people engaged in this profession. Why would anyone invest the time, right? So this is a weird case where in this situation, the first person to strike it will be the person who's invested labor in it. I said it again, right? I think this is a weird case where the first person to strike will have invested the most labor. Why? Because they found the damn whale, right? You can't just start shooting lances off into the ocean. You hope you hit a fish, right? The only reason why you're shooting a thing is you see the whale and you're trying to hit it. And the person who does the first shot All right, now I'm going to give you a hypothetical, right? What if you spend hours tracking the whale and you shoot it and you miss? You miss. The whale goes underwater, I don't know, you miss it. And then some jerk comes along and says, aha, and he's the first one to hit it. Under the rule here, if you miss your first shot and someone else gets it, I think you're out of luck. So this is not a pure labor theory. It's basically, it's a rule of capture motivated by labor theory, if that makes any sense. But if, again, first guy, you spend hours chasing the whale, you shoot your lance at it, your only lance, you have one lance, you shoot your lance, you miss it, then someone else comes along and takes it, you're out of luck under this rule, I think. All right, if we get the holding. Now, what's the remedy? I don't see name tag right there. Okay, you're so close together. Is that Mandy? Mandy, what's the remedy here? What does the court actually issue for the judgment? What's actually the remedy?
They found that the plaintiff got market value of the oil and cost of preparing for the market releases.
Right. So basically, yeah. So the whale's gone. Basically, they got whatever the cost was from the auction. Whatever the oil at the auction was given to Ghen, the plaintiff. I think that's right. Ashley, was your hand up?
Oh no, I'm sorry.
It's okay. Okay. All right. So that's the end of this case, right? No costs. What does that mean? No attorney's fees. Attorneys love getting paid, but sometimes they don't. You pay your own lawyer. But you know how this works, right? Usually, when a person hires a lawyer, they can do a couple different ways. One, you pay up front, pay by the hour, or two, the lawyer works in what you might call a contingency. You know what that is? The lawyer gets paid if the party wins. You get 40% of whatever the damages is. So maybe they got a percentage of that $70. But courts can also award costs. Sometimes when a case is frivolous and it's completely unreasonable, the court's going to say, you know what, this case is so stupid, you have to pay the other guy's legal fees. Those are great. When you get fee shifting, that's what lawyers love, because then the other side paying for it, not your guy. And your guy's like, oh, that's awesome, right? Sometimes when you sue the government and there's some circumstances that apply, you get the government to pay your fees. Congress approves of that. Okay. Those are good. When you get fee shifting, that makes everyone happy, except for the other side has to pay up. Okie doke. Questions on the first case, the whale case? Yeah, but what I want you to take away from this decision is how fluid the court moves back and forth between capture and labor. He basically does both of them, right? And you can see how John Locke is in the back of his head. He's like, well, I don't want to punish these whalers who risk their lives, but also we have to have a rule that's easy enough to apply because you have to actually, strike the animal first. Yeah, Ashley?
So I definitely see the reasoning for the court's decision, but does policy matter here? Like, since you said whaling was a tough industry,
Mm-hmm.
like I know they don't really make any, like a whole lot of policy arguments, but like, because it's tough if, because the whale sinks and you have to later identify it as your own.
Yeah.
If they allowed somebody else to claim it because they got it, then why would anybody ever do it because you can't?
Well, you're asking me about policy, which is a word that law students use to mean different things. When I'm talking about labor theory, that's a policy argument, right? That's not a statute. That's not a precedent. That's saying, as a matter of policy, we should reward those who invest labor in a hunt, right? Labor theory is a policy, versus the rule of capture is a policy theory, right? We should create certainty that there's no doubt if you have the animal, it's yours. Those are inherently policy questions. Whenever law students hear the word policy, they start getting, they get very nervous about it. But this is policy. We're making arguments not based on positive law. We're making arguments based on different values, and which value do you prefer? Do you prefer to reward the person who invests effort into something, or do you prefer to create a certainty, fairness for society or the court? Those are policy arguments. Yeah, please. And I'll just give you a preview. The exam I give in this class, people start typing feverishly, right? The exam, there are going to be two parts, right? Each part has one policy element on it. So you'll need to make these sorts of arguments for the exam, at least on two questions. So another hand, yeah. And that's Stuart? Yeah.
labor there only apply to the hunt itself? So I think if you want a beach whale and can't identify who killed it, you're going to put some labor into moving that whale off the beach.
Well, notice how the court styled their judgment, right? It was market value of the oil, the less of the cost of preparing for the market. So the court considered that exact issue, right? The cost to actually drag the whale from the beach. I think the word to try it, I think that's the word, right? To actually try out the oil, TRY, to chop up the carcass, everything else. So basically, after all the other stuff, you got $70 out of it. That's the entire output of the whale. $71.05. They got down to the penny, right?
So as far as like getting the whale to, possession of somebody, do they balance the labor of the hunt versus like moving it and stuff like that?
Well, the labor of moving it comes later, right? At that point, the whale already has a final resting place, its own, so to speak. You only consider the labor costs of the moving when you actually figure out what the damages are, right? Just like, let's say you're doing a fox hunt, for example. You pick up the fox, you carry it. There are not many costs associated with transporting it. The whale, these things are ginormous. All right, good. Any questions in the whale case? All right. Okay. Yeah, the notes afterwards discuss some of the elements of the whaling trade. And really what destroyed the whaling trade was coal and petroleum. And once people realized that, you can find oil and coal in the ground and you didn't have to do an insane whale hunt, they stopped doing it. The profession declined very quickly because they didn't need to do it anymore. So, capitalism. What's that?
Good for the whales.
Capitalism's good for the whales. Yeah, it helped. Thanks, Dad. You didn't raise your hand, by the way. I'll be in trouble. I'll be in trouble later. All right. What else? Questions in the first case? All right. Let's do the next case. Next case is Keeble versus Hickeringill. What a name, right? I actually found their pictures. This is Edmund Hickeringill. This was the neighbor, the jerk. He kind of looks like it, right? And the case was decided by Lord Chief Justice Holt. And these wigs were something else, right? These red. Actually, the style of robes for judges used to be red. These bright velvet red robes, or even silk red robes. And actually, I made fun of John Marshall yesterday. I'll actually praise him now. One of his great innovations was to drop the red robes and make them just normal black robes, right? We used to have these red silk robes. Roberts, I confuse him a lot. Marshall said, screw that, black robes. And so I am grateful to John Marshall for his sartorial choices, but not his jurisprudential decisions. Okay. Has anyone ever gone duck hunting? Oh, wow. A lot of people. Good. I've never gone hunting of any kind. It just doesn't interest me. But if I screw this up, correct me, okay? The trick about duck hunting is to basically deceive the ducks and try to make them go into certain areas. Is that more or less right? Okay. This case concerns duck decoys. Okay. This picture in your book is utterly unhelpful. Does anyone know what the hell this is? I mean, just look. What is this? It's like it looks like a Star of David in an ocean. I don't know what it is. Like I look at this every like, what are they trying to convey to students? I talk to the editors of your casebook. I complain a lot because I have a column law book that I write, but I use someone else's casebook for property, and I complain a lot. I just know what this graphic is. So let me show you a video that actually illustrates it. Right? These pictures help. All right. Let me put this video. It's short. Okay. And it's in Dutch. I don't speak Dutch. You don't need to understand what's going on. Just listen. Okay, so you see what happens? You basically have these nets, right? And you try to deceive the duck. You try to trick them into flying into these nets. This guy, right? Oh, and then the duck's trapped. Okay, you've seen enough. Okay. All right, but the idea of duck hunting, as I understand it, is you need quiet, you have to sit and wait, and then when the duck is in the right place, you sort of trick them to go into these nets, and then you can just capture them, right? It's just like an easy way to trap ducks. Is that not even close? No, okay, tell me. Tell me, Blake, what did I get wrong? Everything?
I don't think that's how any of us do it.
I know. I know. You've never done that with the little dude with the dog? No?
Like, oh, I didn't know that's forever used.
All right, well, whatever. This is how they do it back then. Yeah, I know. That's why I show you the picture. It's insane. But you basically had, at the end of a lake, you had these nets. And you try and trick the ducks to fly into these nets. And you have them here. Now go back to this picture. At the end of these sort of arms, you had the nets. That's what this picture actually means, right? You put the nets over here, so the ducks are just swimming around this pond, and you sort of flush them out into these areas. That's what's going on there. Okay, whatever, right? All right, so is that Moises?
Yeah.
You want to give me the facts, please, in the second case, Keeble?
Yes.
Thank you.
Keeble, he has his own property that he hunts for ducks.
Uh-huh.
He built this, or he had someone come out and procure divers and get this whole machine set up.
Well, he procure what?
Divers.
What does that mean?
People that were swimming.
No, I know those people. What? Divers actually means many. It's actually an adjective. But he procured these sort of nets and decoys, right? Every year someone says that, yeah. Yeah, it's not like a little scuba Dan, right, inside the pond. That's not what's going on here. So he procured these nets, and then what was his goal? What was he trying to do here?
To catch the ducks that were swimming into.
All right, very good, very good. Okay, so who's that next to you? I can't see your name tag. John, now was this the guy's profession? Was he doing this for food? Was he doing this for survival?
I believe he was doing this as a sort of profession. I think it says that it was his market.
Look, I want to take a look at this guy. Here's his, does this look at the guy who needs to hunt ducks for a living? Why were they doing this? What do you think? Sport. Yeah, I think it's sport, right? I mean, I don't know. Actually, this was the other guy, the neighbor. But when your neighbor looks like this, you're not. When you have these massive duck hunt apparatus, you're not struggling to make yourself dinner, right? This is for fun, right? This is like a sport, recreation, whatever you want to call it, right? All right. But the idea was, you have a decoy. You sort of funnel the ducks into these areas, and you capture them. Okay. So far, so good. Is that Lexus? Lexus, so what happened here that wasn't so good? Well, how did this screw up? Where did this entire game go awry? He was being what?
He was being mean.
Yeah, he was being a jerk. What did he do?
He went onto his land and started shooting on the ducks.
Yeah. So he came across and he fired 6 guns laden with gunpowder, noise and stink, to drive away the ducks. Yeah, this one line. To damnify the plaintiff in his viviary. Viviary is an area where birds are stored. So to damnify the viviary. To forsake the said pond. Okay. Basically chasing away the ducks. If those ducks are chased away, you probably get other ones. But they go to court and they sue over it. All right. Chase, what happens next?
He entered into a not guilty plea and a verdict was found for the plaintiff.
Okay. Okay, 20 pounds, right? Very good. And what was the basis of the award of damages? What exactly did the neighbor do that was wrong?
Because he was doing it purposefully and scared the ducks away.
But so what? He didn't stop him from catching them. He didn't actually, steal his ducks. He made some loud noise. Why is that something that's illegal?
Because he was, taking that away from him.
Taking what? You said taking that.
Taking the joy he got.
The joy. Ah, the joy of running with a little hat and the dog, right? It's like, right? Okay. So there are a couple points here that I want to walk you through. The court says that having these duck decoys is a lawful activity. It's lawful to hunt ducks. It says lawful to seduce and hunt ducks, and I don't think that word means what you think it means, but attract. And And then the court has this line. He says, as to every man hath a property may employ it for his pleasure and profit, as for procuring ducks. So in other words, if you have property, you can use it however you want. Now, Elias, where did the neighbor shoot his gun from? Did he actually trespass? Did he actually trespass onto his land?
I didn't see that.
No, he didn't. So where do you think he fired his guns from? Yeah. So I think he fired the guns from his own land. So there's not a trespass action. Maybe you can make a nuisance case out, right? But there's not a trespass, right? So the plaintiff is using his land to hunt ducks, and the defendant is using his land to frustrate the plaintiff. Now, Ryan, let me ask you this point. They sort of alluded to this, but they didn't discuss it much. Does it matter that the wild animals, these ducks, were on his lake, his pond? Does that make a difference?
No.
Right, so in the cases we've done before, we're hunting in the ocean, right? No one owns the ocean. The ocean's wild, right? In the other case I discussed last class, we're in the wild, right? We're in the woods. Should it make a difference if an animal is on your property?
I don't think so, no.
Do you have a pet?
Yes.
Does a pet live in your property?
Yes.
If that pet runs away and I take it, is it mine?
No, but
Why not?
there's a distinguishing factor. One's domesticated and one's wild.
So you're telling me if a domesticated animal runs away and comes into my backyard, it's not mine?
Yes.
Okay, he's right, actually. The law draws a distinction between wild animals and domesticated animals. In fact, you saw this in the previous case. Let me just type this word up here so everyone sees it. Fere naturae, right? It's Latin. I know you hate Latin, right? Anonymous wombat, yeah. Fere naturae. That just means wild animal, right? Right? Basically not domesticated animal. But we'll get to fere naturae in a minute, right? I want to go back to Elias's point a minute ago, which I think he's exactly right on. If I have a dog or a cat or some sort of domesticated animal and it gets loose and goes to someone else's backyard, the animal doesn't become the property of that other guy. It's still my dog. I hope so, at least, right? But Genevieve, what about for wild animals? Let's say that you have a huge backyard and a deer is just running through. It runs from your backyard to someone else's backyard to another person's backyard. If the animal starts in your backyard and finishes at Caitlin's backyard, can you still claim it, Genevieve?
No,
Why not?
because it's not permanently staying on my land, nor do I have any possession over it. It's just passing through it.
Okay, very good. So this is doctrine. It's again another Latin phrase. I'm sorry, I'm loading up on the Latin, but it's important. Ratione soli. I'm pronouncing this terribly. I don't really pronounce it, but ratione soli. What that generally means is you own the wild animals on your property, so long as they're on your property. If they escape, they're not yours anymore. So in this case, I think the rule was actually pretty straightforward. The ducks were in his lake. The ducks were in his pond. At least for that moment, they were his. Even if he didn't actually appropriate them, he didn't shoot them, didn't, hold them up like this, right? He didn't capture them. They were his ducks under this ratione soli doctrine. And this is mentioned in the notes after the case, but I wanted to flag it here, right? So there's an animal that's on your property, wild animal, that's a fere naturae on your property. It's yours so long as it's there, which is why the nets are important. The nets keep the wild animal on your land, right? Ducks can fly away if you scare them. What prevents them from flying away? The net.
On that setup, though, the net is not over the duck, the net is a trap. So you technically, or at least in that case, you didn't own those ducks even though they were wild and on his property. So if you make an argument and say you were trying to catch them, he scared them away, so...
But the ducks were in his pond, right? The entire day the ducks were not in the air. The ducks were in the pond, and the pond was on his soil. Think of soil, right? It's not actually literally soil, but that's the earth. That's where your property is. The second the guy shot his gun, they started flying away. They were gone. They were out. Yeah. Is that Clayton? Yeah.
Yes, sir. So the second the duck leaves pond.
I'm going to hedge. I don't know how air rights work in this context. I know someone's going to ask me that question. It's actually a complicated issue that if a duck is flying over your property, is it yours? I think it's very hard to measure where a duck is over your property, so I'm going to just not answer that question. But I see exactly what you're asking me. Yeah, go ahead.
So my question is, what makes an animal truly domesticated versus wild? Because in Texas we have high fenced ranches with
What ranches? I'm sorry.
high fenced.
Oh, high fenced. I heard high fence. Okay, high fenced.
And there's exotic animals in there.
Zebras and stuff. Yeah,
and
it's
things
like
that.
yeah.
So once they escape, do they become fair game? You have reason
Dude,
to know they're probably not wild.
If there's a zebra walking,
Yeah.
I think it's not domesticated.
Well, okay, but things like certain types of deer.
Deer are not domesticated. Yeah. If a domesticated animal it's something that lives in your farm and you have to feed it, or else it'll die, right? You can probably argue about this, but domesticated animals can't live in the wild. Maybe not very long. Maybe they can, but I was driving to a farm. What the hell is that? It's just they're zebras. You know what that is?
I live there. That's where I'm from.
Tyler?
Around there.
Where? I don't even remember where it was. I just saw it. What's it? It was on the way to Tyler. I was like, whoa, there are all these zebras.
Yeah, I literally passed that. I don't remember the name of it.
Anyway, I was like, whoa, there's zebras there. That's pretty cool. Yeah, over there.
Going back to the shoe space and stuff, does it go back to custom?
Does what's it? You said, does it go back to custom? What's it?
What's domesticated and what's not?
Yeah, I think it does. This is not a bright line rule, but I think a general rule might be, is it something that you need to care for, like a cow, right? If you don't milk a cow, it's going to die. All right, they need to have care given to them. Okay, going back there. Well, you give my exercise, get my steps in. Right, go ahead.
That walks onto your property. You probably know that that's somebody's.
Zebra.
Occur naturally.
Yeah.
Where you're from. Do you have to restrain from shooting that animal because?
Well,
you know
look,
it's somebody else's property?
the legislature may have ways around this, right? So, for example, a cow is a domesticated animal, right? If a cow escapes and walks on someone's land, you have a brand on them, and they know. I don't know. Do people brand their zebras? I don't know. I don't know.
I know that like if a black buck leaves somebody's high fence.
A black buck, is that a type of a deer?
Yes, sir. You can shoot it. Like even if
Oh,
it's
God.
not yours.
Oh boy. Okay, I don't like where this is going. Okay. Yeah. Last one, Blake. Then move on.
I was going to say, going back to some of the ranches, the zebras are obviously a very different animal.
Yes.
You can go to the pronghorn antelope, which are native, but a lot of those farms will tag or even brand their pronghorns. So if it did escape, that just goes back to hunter
Right.
education.
But all this stuff is basically unwritten kind of natural law. The legislature can say, for antelope, here's rule A. For black buck, here's rule B. For zebra, Lord help us, here's rule C, right? The legislature can specify rules for different types of animals. We don't have to fight over what's domesticated or not. But you can think, like, what's a domesticated animal? It's actually not a straightforward question. You can quibble over what it is. Right, like bees are wild animals, but people domesticate them. Okay, we good? All right, but let's go back to the case, right? So the court doesn't base its ruling on the rationing solely doctrine. It could, but it doesn't. On Tuesday, you're reading a case called Pearson v. Post-Melting Foxes. They're going to reference a duck case with rationing solely, but they won't mention that it's this case. I'm telling you it's this case. So if you're reading on Tuesday, they're going to basically cite this case, but they're not going to mention by name. So just know when you're talking about ducks and rationing solely, they're talking about this case, okay? Okay, I'll connect that for you. Okay, so they don't rule this case based on the rationing solely doctrine. Instead, where is this thing? Okay, I have a video later for you, another one. Instead, they base it on something else. Who am I up to? Oh, is that Caitlin? I think you're next. Yeah. What's the basis of the court's ruling? It's not rationing solely.
They basically
base it on the fact that it's lawful for anyone to be able to hunt these ducks and that kind of thing, and so the fact that he's shooting them to get these ducks away is wrong?
Yeah, it's kind of a weird ruling. The court says that you can't interfere with someone else's trade. It's almost like an economic liberty or a freedom of contract argument, right? That you have the right to engage in duck hunting, and people can't screw up with your profession. I don't think this was his job. I think this was a hobby, it was a sport. But the court goes there. And they give an example, which I love this example, that if a schoolmaster sets up a competing school and he lies there with his shotgun to scare the kids away, right? Okay. So this is not even a property case. It's more of a case about unfair competition, if you think about it. That the neighbor was unfairly competing with Keeble for these ducks. Right? You can compete, but you can't interfere. And that's the rule of the case, which seems kind of strange, which is why I like the rationally solely version much better, because it's property. People who are instrumental by their skill should be able to reap the benefits. Encourage this long-standing tradition. So in other words, let people hunt ducks. Okay. Kind of a weird case. Sort of ends in an abrupt fashion. Okay. That's okay. That's okay. Don't laugh. On my very first day of teaching in 2012, my very first day, it was my birthday. That's why I got cookies. But I was teaching property 2, and I had, see here, I have a lid on my cup. I used to have an Nalgene that you screw off the top. So my very first day of teaching, my very first minute, I was playing a video, and it actually knocked over the entire thing of water everywhere. It's recorded. It's on YouTube. You can watch it, right? But the entire water got everywhere. And I was like, oh, God, it's my first day of teaching. And then as I'm trying to pick it up, I knocked my laptop off the podium. And it went uphill from there. When you start that low, you can only go up. So don't be sad. It happens.
So I'm going to get an A+.
Yeah, you're an ace the class. But that's why I always now have a lid on my stupid thing, because it was like a liter Nalgene. It was a huge one and just went everywhere. Yeah, I see a hand there. Yeah, Elias.
Well, I was going to ask, maybe this would be resolved in the next case that we read that references this case.
Mm-hmm.
But if the court hadn't ruled based on competition policy, would they rule on like a taking or a reduction of the plaintiff's property via
You're using the word taking. I think I know you're talking about the federal taking power. Is that what you're getting at?
No.
What do you mean by taking?
Well, if he's scaring the ducks out of the pond, and when they leave the pond, they no longer become his property.
Right.
Then he's like damaging the guy's net worth.
Right. It's basically an unfair competition argument. That's the idea. And the measure of damages would be the value of the ducks that he would have otherwise caught.
So that would have worked too, but they chose to go with this.
Yeah, it's a weird case. I like the case for the duck part, but they end in sort of unfair business practice, which doesn't really fit to our class. Okay, thank you for the question. By the way, my intermediate school is called Elias Bernstein. I've never actually seen a person have that name before.
Oh yeah.
Yeah, it's rare.
Good name.
Yeah, I like it. All right, intermediate school is middle school. That's what they call it in New York, at least. Okay. Yes, over there. Is that Christopher? Spell it out. I think I see what you're saying.
So conversion, in other words, exercising dominion or control over another's property in such a way that deprives that.
Thank you. Yes, but how did he exercise dominion? What exactly did he do? I mean, he scared the ducks, to be sure, but I don't know this rises as a conversion. And also, I don't know if conversion is a cause of action for real property, right? You think of personal property, like if I take your stuff, I take your notebook, your computer, that's conversion. I can't take someone's land. Like I can't just like grab it out of the earth and carry it away. Well, so it's not a perfect fit.
Well, then the follow would be for the ducks. I guess the ducks being ferae naturae can't be considered chattels.
Yeah, and I don't think it was his, right? In other words, the duck is only yours as long as it's on your property. Once it's off your property, you have no claim to it anymore. So I don't think conversion works there. Good idea. Good question. And I see you memorize that element of the torts very well. It's burned in your yeah, I know. You learned well. You pay attention the first semester. All right, anything else on the duck case? Anything else on the duck case? All right, let's run to the last case. And that's why the video for you. So the last case involves baseball. Now, we are now, my goodness, 2002 was 17 years ago. Could that be right? Almost 2020. Yeah, we're almost 18 years ago. So you were probably, you weren't even alive. Oh, you were alive, but not by much. You were in maybe grade school. Yes.
Yeah, some of us were well into
I started teaching on my 28th birthday. My first was my 28th birthday. It was like, you're so young, but I get older. So the gap shrinks. For evening students, though, it's still okay. But in 2002, there was a baseball player named Barry Bonds. He was very popular, and he was about to break a record for most home runs in a season. He was about to his 73rd home run, right? In hindsight, Barry Bonds has been disgraced because he was using a lot of steroids at the time, right? But at the time, this was a huge deal. All right, so let me play this video. It's a brief trailer. Look at him.
Be the Bay Area's newest millionaire. I was screaming at the top of my lungs. He's not the guy who caught the ball. I'm probably 6 inches taller than anybody around me. I catch it. Then we start to realize that this is actually a bigger story than just this historic home run ball. There is a fight now brewing over the record-setting 73rd home run ball. At that point, Alex hired an attorney and he filed a lawsuit against Patrick Hayashi. You guys got a better chance splitting the money than going to court.
That's Bonds.
I will be the rightful owner of that bond in this trial. You have no witnesses. You have no videotape. An umpire has to make a decision in less than a second. Now we have that decision stretched out over weeks and weeks and weeks. I saw Mr. Hayashi fight a kid. Yes. I think it was Al. Sorry. I say it's finders, keepers, losers, weepers, man. You stand back the damn ball. Just move on. That ball doesn't break.
Okay.
The Giants are happy for you to keep any ball thrown or hit into the stands. However, this can be dangerous, so please be alert at all times.
Yeah. All right. So you get the gist, right? By the way, it's a beautiful ballpark. If you've ever been there, it's stunning. And a lot of the balls actually go into the bay, which is right over the outfield fence. And people have little kayaks, and they actually, they'll paddle around. They'll try and catch balls that hit into the bay. This is not about hunting foxes or hunting ducks. This is a modern case. And at the time, the ball was valuable. At least they thought it'd be valuable. It turned out not to be so valuable because of Barry Bonds and steroids. But we're now in October of 2001. So, my God, almost 20 years ago. My God, a long time ago. You have Alex Popov and Patrick Hayashi. And they brought baseball gloves, right? Now, I want to talk about this one step at a time. Is that Marissa?
Yes.
So, Marissa, let's talk one step at a time, right? The pitcher has the ball. He hasn't thrown it yet. Who does the ball belong to at that moment? Pitcher has the ball, hasn't thrown it yet.
The pitcher?
Well, who does the pitcher work for?
The
Yeah, good. Yeah. So at that moment, the ball is owned by the Major League Baseball, right? Ball's owned by Major League Baseball, right? So Grayson, the pitch is thrown. Barry Bonds hits it with a lot of force, and it's flying through the air. At that moment, who owns the property as it's flying through the air?
No one, it's abandoned.
I think that's exactly right. It's abandoned property, right? It's like as if you just had your property and you threw it in the trash. You abandon it. So it's in the air. You watch the video. And let me actually show you the actual video of the scrum. So I have it. This is the actual video of the scrum. Just so I want you to watch it. I'm going to just play by play. Okay. So at this moment, right, the ball's thrown. Still property of Major League Baseball, right? Okay. Bonds clops it, right? It's gone. At that point, I think it's abandoned property. I think Grayson's exactly right. Alexa, you're on tap for a second. And I want you to see where the ball went. It was in the outfield arcade area, almost to the edge of the park, right? So Alexa, what happens is Popov has his glove up, and Popov stops the ball from flying out of the park, right? So he's the first one to hit it. At the moment, Alexa, the ball hits Popov's glove, who owns the ball at that moment? Does Popov own it merely because his glove stopped the forward motion of the ball? You say no, why not? What's possession, Alexa?
Complete control over the ball. He paused the momentum, but didn't stop the momentum.
He paused the momentum but didn't stop it. Okay, so I mean just the ball's going like this, right? It's flying, and his glove kind of stops it. Okay, let me play the video for a second so we can watch what happens. Okay, and I just look at this scrum of people, and they're all fighting, right? So Popov reached for the ball, and apparently he lost his balance when doing so. I mean, he's reaching for it. And the second it hits his glove, he gets mobbed. There's a crowd of people who just swarm him, and he's tackled, and he's thrown to the ground. And the ball is, and by the way, this was 2001. You didn't have HD cameras, right? You didn't have people with their iPhones putting this Instagram Live, right? You didn't have the things you would have today, right? You have just a camera that's not even HD probably from the outfield trying to record this, and you can't really tell what the hell's going on, right? If you ever watch, like an instant replay for football, right? You have these like super high resolution cameras like on the goalpost, 2 inches away. We don't have that back then. So there was some sort of scrum, and I want you to watch this for a minute. How do you even figure out who the hell's the ball? And this goes on for a while. One more angle. That guy, I love that guy. It's hilarious. And this goes on for like just a while. They're just fighting over it. And you'll see Hayashi come up in a minute with the ball. How complicated the situation was. There's Hayashi. You see him right there? He came in right at the end. Right there. He has the red glove. So Hayashi's right there. You see him right over there? He has it right there. Dude has it right there. So we don't even know how he got it, right? Because I want you to watch this video. We just have no idea, but the guy someone came in with the ball. There he is. There he has it. Dude, he's like, haha, I caught it. And they're still on the ground fighting. Dude has it. He's right there. No one even knows. All right. Okay. All right. So this actually goes to court, right? And the court has to decide it. There's no statute to resolve this dispute. So the judge perhaps makes his first mistake. He hires law professors to give different theories of how to resolve this case. And there are a couple of theories that are considered, right? Here, conversion, though, Chris, conversion is relevant here because it's a physical chattel, right? It's a thing. So the first rule is from Professor Gray. I think it's Samantha. Do you have this one? So what does Professor Gray say? And again, never let law professors make decisions of any import. I mean, it's any law professor, seriously. We're terrible people to make judgment calls. Don't listen to law professors, but they did here. So what did the law professor say?
It's basically kind of what Alexis said in the sense that whoever has the actual ball, whoever's the possessor of it, is the one who has complete control of the ball.
Okay, but how do you gain complete control? Just tell me that one. I think you're right. What do you have to do? Is it enough to stop the momentum?
It's not just enough to stop the momentum.
Yes. What else do you have to do?
You have to secure it.
Yes. You have to actually have complete control over the ball. Okay? If it's dislodged, if someone knocks you over, or this guy got tackled by 100 people, right? If it gets dislodged, you don't have it. The first person to pick it up and secures it is the possessor. All right? So if you ever, I don't care if you watch football or not, but it's actually very similar to run football. For you to have a catch, you have to have both hands on the ball and secure it. It can't be, juggling it. You can't be bobbling it, right? You can't be, someone knocks you and you drop it. You have to secure the catch close. Even if you catch it and you fall to the ground and the fall to the ground knocks the ball out, it's not a catch. So this is if you're a football fan, it doesn't really matter, but the first rule I think is very similar to the Major League Football NFL rule. But did you guys have your name tags, or you gotta?
Oh, I left my phone.
Okay, I understand. Okay, that's fine. Yeah, I know. Yeah, he's next. So that's little letters. Okay, Garrett. Yeah, thank you. I didn't have glasses when I started. Now I do. It happens, right? So the no, I didn't need glasses. Actually, you didn't get glasses. What, you were 40? Yeah. I got them when I was around 30. So he beat me by a lot. The second rule, though, is Popov's theory. So, Garrett, what's Popov's theory? How does he articulate the way to resolve these sorts of disputes?
He says you don't have to have complete control, more or less, just stop, I guess, forward momentum in a significant degree.
Uh-huh. Yeah. How does the court then resolve it? Do they choose the Gray rule or they choose the Popov rule? Megan, how does the court resolve this dispute? Okay, why? Why did they choose the Gray rule? Well, that's right, but why, my question is a little different. My question is, why did the court choose the Gray rule? They give a reason, but why? We know what the rule is, but why they choose the Gray rule? Who's they? Who's they? Just in what context?
That
Yeah, he cites custom, right? He cites practice. The same thing we saw with the whale case, and that we saw with the duck case, was used with the baseball case. Decided, 200 years apart. He says there's a custom and practice of being in the stands of a baseball game. And the idea of being in a baseball game is the person who achieves full control has it. Anyone ever catch a foul ball? Did anyone fight you for it? We were at Yankee Stadium. Remember that time? And of course, I was on my phone. But a foul ball was hit right in front of me. I wasn't paying attention. Someone actually dove in the row in front of me. I could have gotten it if I just, but I was, of course. So I missed a foul ball. But generally, whoever gets it and secures possession, it's theirs. And that's what the court rules. But the court didn't actually take its ruling all the way, right? The court didn't say that Hayashi gets everything. Corey, what did the court do instead? The court did something kind of funny.
They basically said they both have valid claims.
Yeah. But what the hell, right? If the entire point is which rule applies, why don't they actually stick with their rule?
I thought it would have been fair to Popov.
Yeah. So this is again labor theory creeping into it, isn't it? Right? Because Mr. Popov put the work into stopping it, but then Hayashi came at the last minute, apparently bit someone, and that's what they said in the video. And Hayashi came at the last minute and took it. Right, so again, this is going to be basically the rule of capture, whoever gets it first, with some labor in the middle. And the court says as a court of equity, we have to choose a middle ground. Right? We have to choose what instinctively feels to be fair. Fair to who? Fair to both of them, I guess. Not really, right? Because they split the amount in half. They say that the plaintiff's cause of action for conversion only works for his interest. Basically half. Each of them gets a half interest in the ball, and the ball has to be sold, and the proceeds have to be split in half. Douglas? That's a good point, right? And the court basically says about Popov, if he had been able to catch it clean, he probably would have been able to keep it. I don't know. I mean, has anyone ever actually caught a ball in the outfield on a Barry Bonds home run? I mean, that's not easy to catch. I mean, there's a chance of it falling out just because it's a hard hit ball, right? So I don't know if it's true, but I think that sort of factors into the equity analysis. And again, they probably suspect Hayashi did some shady stuff also. Like it's just like there was all this evidence, but you can't see in that scrum who's doing what. And it's kind of grainy, blurry video. This is not like people on their iPhone 11, right? Taking these really high-res shots. That didn't exist back then. Yeah, Caitlin. Yes. Good point. And that was his power alley, right? That's where he hit all his home runs into that corner because he was a lefty, right? He was a lefty, right? I think he was. Yeah. That was his corner. He would always hit him right over to the bay. In fact, I think they actually built that ballpark with him in mind, so he would hit all those. It's a very short. It's like the Aaron Judge wall, right? Yeah, it's true. Yeah, it's just yeah. Baseball teams can actually modify their fences for where their players hit. But I think Caitlin's right. The tickets probably for that area were probably scalped for a lot of money because they knew that was going to be the spot where he would hit his home runs. And, do you assume the risk that you may get jostled there? I mean, how many battery claims could you make out from that one, right? I mean, like Odell Beckham, right? Making battery claims at a sporting event. Everyone see that? My God. My God. Don't smack a cop's behind. Don't do that. What are you thinking? You saw that video? Just Google it. It's bad. He's giving money to players and he's smacking the behinds of the cop. The cop's like, what the hell just happened? Anyway, but this case did not turn out well, right? So they eventually put the ball for auction. But after all this litigation went on and on and on, Barry Bonds' popularity plummeted because he was found to have been associated with a steroid scandal. I mean, if you want to see, just look at Barry Bonds' head in like 2002 versus like 1988, like doubled in size. It's true. Just Google it. So they expected the ball to be over $1 million and only sold for $500,000, right? $450,000. And basically each side gets $250,000. Great, right? No, wrong, lawyers, right? So Popov's lawyer is what we call a secured creditor. He was working on a contingency, right? And he basically secured an amount that would have been the entire value of the ball. He was expecting to get about $500,000. And that's what he got. So basically, Popov never got anything. He had to declare bankruptcy. This is like, when people come into money quickly, it usually never ends well. You win a lottery or whatever, people go bankrupt. They don't know what the hell they're doing. So it's not good to do this. Just let someone else get the ball, and you'll get a good story out of it. What was that?
What happened to Hayashi?
I don't know what his legal bills were. Maybe he had a different arrangement with his attorneys. I'm not sure. But look, when you litigate, right, you're going to be lawyers. It's not free, right? You say, I'm going to sue you. Oh, that's nice, right? Who's going to pay for it, right? You have to hire someone, and that's very expensive. That's why you guys will have money to pay off your loans and things like that. Okay. All right, so again, let me wrap up a bit. We had 3 cases today. All of them involve the rule of capture. But in all of them, labor theory sort of creeps into the background, right? In the first case, it's, well, whoever captures the whale first, but we want to reward those who put the effort into striking it first. In the second case, well, whoever captures the duck, but we want to reward people who actually invest in building these decoys and things. And the third case is, well, whoever gets the ball first, but actually gets it fully, but let's give a little bit to the person who actually put the effort into stopping its trajectory, right? So John Locke usually gets the last laugh, even though they always talk about rule of capture. Okay, questions on that? All right, your reading for Tuesday is going to be a little bit weird, a little bit different. I assigned one case, Pearson v. Post. That's a fox hunting case. That's going to seem normal. But I also assigned another case that's going to be very weird. It might seem criminal-ish, but it's not. It's called the case of the Splunking Explorers, and it's not a real case. It's you ever read it? No one ever see it? It's a fictional case, but it describes different ways that judges resolve disputes. I promise it'll be worthwhile. What I want you to do is, as you're reading the Splunking Explorer case, tell me which justice you agree with the most. I think there are 4 or 5 different opinions, depending how you count. I want you to tell me which one you agree with the most. Understood? Very good. I will see you all on Tuesday. Have a wonderful weekend.